Hello guys and welcome to my first ever podcast with my special guest, Roman Nawrocki.
Thank you for having me.
My name is Agnes and I am CPC Qualified Transport Manager, and so is my guest, Roman. We'll go over several topics related to Transport Manager, including the duties, the struggles and the money. So stay tuned till the end so you can hear it all. Roman, thank you so very much for coming over to meet me today and to agreeing to be interviewed and to come a guest on my podcast.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. So let's go over several questions that I have prepared ahead of time, and hopefully that will help our viewers and our audience to understand a little bit more about the transport manager duties and what kind of struggles you have doing your job, and also the money that potentially becoming a transport manager you can achieve.
Absolutely.
Could you tell us how long have you been a transport manager, and also a little bit about your background that led you to become a transport manager?
Yes, so I've always been passionate about transport. I've always liked lorries, and that always caught my eye. So, my background is actually I used to be a lorry driver, and
Okay.
as it turned out, after finishing my education, I decided to drive lorries for a bit. It took several years actually. But then eventually I wanted to progress in my career, and so decided to apply for various supervisory roles, which I've been successful. So that's how I built my experience, and over time I decided to complete the training for the transport manager and pass the exam. So that opened many more doors in my career. So I moved on to being a manager. At some point, basically, I decided that I really enjoy helping drivers, helping people working in a compliant manner, and then I was quite good at picking up things that were not correct, and it fascinated me. So I decided to move on to being actually a consultant and auditing organizations as well. So I've completed some more courses on auditing. I read up about the transport compliance. So I kind of set myself the goal to either know the answer or know where to find it, and that's it was kind of a turning point in my life where I decided to follow my dreams. As it turned out to be quite nice, because I was able to get some first clients, be able to advise them, get some feedback, and grow as not only as a transport manager but also as a consultant.
Mm-hmm.
So here I am. I am now not only a transport manager, but I also advise people who struggle with compliance. And eventually, I even decided to develop some further products that help with achieving the good compliance for transport companies.
Fantastic. So how many years have you been transport manager by now?
I have passed my exam in 2013.
Okay,
So it's
so
been
quite a
nine-
while.
Not quite, but 9 years
Longer than
so
me.
far. Yeah, so I think it's still many more to come, hopefully.
Okay, yeah. There are two types of transport managers, the external and the internal one. Could you tell us more the difference between them, and also which one are you?
So the the qualification is the same. However, some companies are able to employ full-time transport manager. So that person obviously takes the responsibility for the transport operation. They are named on the operator license. All standard operator license holders need to have transport manager engaged with their business. So this is just normal transport manager job where the drivers report to the transport manager, and you deal with all the issues. Your responsibilities normally are just more than just compliance. You've got some operational issues to deal with as well. And quite often a lot of responsibility for the budget as well, and obviously reporting to the director. And from experience, I know that being internal transport manager involves many other things than just transport compliance.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes even warehousing and being a secretary as well.
Okay.
It is just depending of the job you are doing, but essentially you are employed as a business, and then you full-time work for this one company. There is also the external transport manager, as you mentioned. This predominantly applies to smaller businesses, and they are when the business is not able to employ a full-time transport manager because obviously the director takes all responsibility for most of the operational jobs, but the compliance still needs to be required absolutely, and the responsible person still needs to be named. So they've got an opportunity to engage with external transport managers, so simply not necessarily employing someone, but maybe subcontracting, engage the external transport manager, so they are purely responsible for compliance, and they work with the directors or the company owners and the responsible people within the companies to achieve those goals. So it's not like it's a sole responsibility of the external transport manager for the compliance, but they've got the knowledge, they've got the know-how, and do need to be named on the license. So the external transport managers are essentially working part-time for smaller operators.
Okay, and you are?
So I am at the moment I act as external transport manager. So I have been
freelancing.
So I'm freelancing, and I have been internal in the past, but at the moment.
Okay, so you do have the experience both from the perspective of being internal transport manager and also the external transport manager.
Yes.
Yeah, that's fantastic. That's the one experience I'm lacking. Transport manager can manage up to 50 trucks. If you have more than 50 trucks, you can still do the transport manager job, but you do need to have an assistant to help you with it. So how many trucks do you manage, or how many operators do you manage at the moment?
So there is a senior traffic commissioner's guide on transport managers, which states that ratio between how many responsible people are required to the for managing a certain amount of trucks. So it is in the guide. It says that at the moment you are able to manage up to 50 trucks as a single transport manager, and then you obviously need some further assistance. In my career, I have managed over that, and including the smaller vehicles, not in scope of our license, way more than that. However, at the moment, I am managing less than 20 across my whole operators. However, obviously, I need to constantly reassess the situation, whether everything is correctly, whether I'm able to manage all the aspects. The traffic commissioner's guide is that obviously you need to be maintaining the effective and continuous control over the operation. That's the key in here. So in terms of how many vehicles there are on the license, you as a responsible person need to be absolutely sure that you're able to cover that. So when it comes to larger numbers, if you have more operators, then it's very good to be able to actually have some backup team, because let's face it, you're not going to be able to be in 4 places in the same time.
Yes.
So you need to have procedures in place that kind of protect the operation while you're not there, and then everyone knows what their responsibilities are. A big part of your role is essentially just auditing what's the procedures, and then whether you've got the correct records that you were expected to do, and because you're not going to be able to see every driver at every time, or any other people who are involved in the process.
Yes, that's true. Very highly responsible job of the transport manager. I feared when I've actually signed up to be a transport manager and I've read all the responsibilities I'm going to have. I thought that this is really such a high responsibility of the job that you have, that you have to be sure that you're doing everything, because if something goes bad, it goes against you, really. You are the one that is responsible for everything going right.
Yes, yeah. So absolutely, responsibility is the word in this game. So I remember from my personal experience, when I first walked into a larger organization as a driver, I thought to myself, I looked in the yard at all the lorries, and I thought I would never be able to be responsible for all this. But then as you progress in your career, you kind of think, okay, you need to do this, and that, and these are the responsibilities. You need to be able to manage other people's, and kind of give them the responsibilities as well. So you're not micromanaging. You need to be able to lay out the expectations and then develop others as well. So that's how you are able to manage larger fleets. I don't think you're able to effectively do it yourself, because you're not going to be able to see every driver. Like I said earlier, there will always be need for other people, and it's also good to develop others as well.
Yes.
So you may mentor someone who wants to progress. And to be honest, I'm grateful to the mentors I had in the past.
We live in a technology dependent world, so can you tell us what technology do you use to manage your job and how does that help you in your day-to-day life?
Yes, absolutely. So we are able to utilize technology in transport. I remember when I started, the even tachographs were analog, and you had to write out the charts, then scan them for analysis. It was a long-winded process, and it was very hands-on from the management. Where now we've got digital tachographs. We can utilize the software for the analysis. We can run the reports on this, so that's absolutely a massive help. You can also these days track your vehicles, and you can run the reports on driver's performance. You can set yourself KPIs, what you want to achieve as a business. And obviously the latest developments are that even the daily walk-around checks can be completed on the mobile phone apps rather than paper. And when you come to work as a transport manager, rather than having piles of paper on your desk, which is difficult then to see which ones are the important. Obviously they are all important, but some of them need immediate action. Some of them basically they just need filing. And obviously to simplify that process, it's much better to use the technology. Yes. So, which then brings me on to my development of the fleet planner, fleet management software, which I'm proud of actually being part of development. I'll be absolutely honest with you. I was very much paper-based person. Even after having this idea, it took me a lot of time to actually realize that it is benefiting me. I was very much stuck in the ways of if I see it and hold it in my hand, then that's real, and that's kind of I'm able to control it better. But then when I was able to do a mental shift into actually, okay, I can trust this, I can have this organized electronically, and it works, I could see the benefit, because it all goes down to the effective and continuous control. You see, if you've got various operators and you need to check whether the drivers are doing the walk-around check. If you have fleet management system, you ask them simply to complete the check on the app, and then you can log in and then actually see all your operators who's completed the check and who didn't, for example.
And what time as well, and if there was any defects. Yeah, we do use your fleet planner, and it's a fantastic platform. It's made my life so much easier. I haven't got as many trucks to manage as you do, but having so little is just a click of a button really, and if I see there is a defect, it straight away brings it up to my dashboard, and I can see it right away. It also tells me the time, so I know whether the driver has done it right on time that he's supposed to have done it, rather than later on in the day. So yes, we will talk about this a little bit later. Are there any other maybe computer-based softwares that you're utilizing? Is there any other things that you use technology-wise?
So obviously anything you can put your hands on really in terms of communication, because communication is a key in here. So even utilizing something like Excel spreadsheets, having a shared file with the operator where we can see everything that what we are doing in terms of achieving good compliance. Even having a WhatsApp group with your drivers is a massive effective tool, because not everything needs to be official. We see training as something as okay, yes, you need to read this and sign that, and then that's your training. You see, drivers, and I know that from being a driver, they may not necessarily be very responsive to that. They quite frankly may simply want to sign something so they can go home.
Yeah.
Okay, and they think, oh, I've got enough experience to keep that vehicle on the road and everything is fine. There's a lot of things obviously they may not be aware of, but they may be reluctant to actually learn new things. And effective way of managing that is maybe even like recording a short video for them and then putting it on WhatsApp. And then just because they are much more likely to respond to that.
And it's less official then, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. So
Fantastic.
so you need to be effective. That's the key. And obviously, technology like that is now available. Everyone's got a smartphone, and it's simply much better.
Yes, fantastic. And for the managing of the tachographs, does Fleet Planner help with it as well?
So we don't provide tachograph analysis at the moment. We use other software providers for our clients.
So that's another technology that gets involved in the whole process. Yeah.
Exactly. Yes. I mean, we do work in the background on developing maybe one day our own system, but that's something
for the future.
Yeah, for the future, absolutely.
Perfect. What does your typical day looks like as a transport manager?
In the various things that we do in our lives, I am fully aware that my key responsibility is for the licenses that I'm named on. So making sure that I know that my drivers completed the vehicle checks, that everyone has downloaded the card, seeing that we keep within every required parameter in terms of downloads, in terms of vehicle inspections, are all the vehicles in a roadworthy condition? Have I got confirmation for that? So this is something that kind of I need to keep as a first priority. This may not be something that's maybe most interesting, but the responsibility obviously is there. So that's my key responsibility, and that's what I focus on. I also provide advice for other people. So I am a busy person, so I have other operators calling me for support and for the advice. And I'll be honest, I also call other people and then for their opinion. Sometimes even if you think you know the answer, it's worth checking.
Double checking, cross-reference.
And then even if you sometimes hear yourself saying something, it kind of makes you question whether that's correct, or actually it's open for another opinion. We also obviously I try to help the Fleet Planner team as much as possible. It is kind of something that's very close to my heart, and I would like to see this company developing further, and then going on to the new levels. I also visit my clients, do the walk-around checks, quality checks for their, making sure that the drivers are completing vehicle checks and seeing them about the issues doing toolbox stops, stuff like that. And,
Perfect. The owners operators sometimes run into the issues and struggles that you as a transport manager would be made aware of. What are the most common issues being made by the operators, and how do you ensure these problems are prevented?
Yes, so obviously there are many challenges for the transport businesses, and the main focus of the owner or the director of the business will always be that business needs to be profitable. That's understandable. We're doing this for money,
not charity.
Absolutely, and nobody's keeping the lorry on the road for fun. I mean, without a few exceptions, but majority of people would do it for money. So the owner will always be driving towards that direction. Your responsibility as a transport manager is to make sure that this is done legally, and then you've got this constant communication established, and then everyone is on the same page. And then the word communication in here is absolute key. So the struggles that I see a lot is exactly. Yeah. So people sometimes are unable to establish good communication channels, and if that's not completed from the start, then we normally run into more problems, because the expectations are on both sides, and then if they're not communicated, not confronted, and then you develop the same way, then it's normally kind of recipe for problems.
For disaster.
And absolutely, yes. So this is something from the transport manager. You don't only need to have the knowledge, you also need to have very good communication skills and being able to establish that with your clients, especially if you're being external transport manager.
I think it's a trust, right? You've got to build the trust right from the beginning, and give yourself the benefit of a doubt and the mutual respect.
Absolutely, yes. So building the procedures, The issues can be coming from drivers. There are unfortunately some difficult people, or some people who think that not following the regulations is okay. Some drivers actually don't have that in them, that actually,
this is serious.
Yes, absolutely. And sometimes it is the educational problem, but sometimes it's the attitude problem, and then ability problem as well. So you need to be able to identify that. And speaking from experience, I think if you as a person are not prepared to let someone go, or sack someone effectively, then you shouldn't be walking into the business. You've got to be able to have that mindset that actually some people need to develop further, but you can only do so much for them internally as a business, and then after that there needs to be a way out for them. This is something that needs to be in the transport manager. So yes, you are the friend, you are the educator, but you also need to be prepared to actually protect the company and yourself, and then say, I'm sorry, we need to part ways. There's also a big issue with the understanding the responsibility of the vehicle maintenance, because if someone walks into the transport business from having experience only with smaller vehicles, not in scope of operator license, then they will have completely different mindset, in terms of what is acceptable, what are the requirements. I'm talking about the regular inspections, about brake testing. For someone who doesn't understand this, they may take this very lightly. And it's not only until they get investigated by authorities that they realize, oh, actually, I'm far behind the requirements, and that's not where you want to be as an operator.
I know we talked a little bit about the challenges, and every job comes with the challenges, but what do you find the most challenging in the job as a transport manager?
Difficult to pinpoint one thing. However, the thing that I come up the most is the interpretation of the safety inspection of the vehicle. Sometimes even the workshop that completes the inspection doesn't understand what they write on the report. And they don't understand the requirements for brake testing. It's not only until you get investigated by authorities, by DVSA, or sitting in front of traffic commissioner, where the expectations are laid very clear to you, what's the level of compliance you are required to have. Then it's not until that you realize actually what is required. And a lot of people who've not been through that experience sometimes take it very lightly. And I will see that is a big challenge. People just don't understand your urgency, and that's hard sometimes.
Do you have any interesting stories to tell us from your experience as being transport manager?
Yeah, so there is things that happen from time to time. In terms of the interesting situations, the more you kind of push the compliance, and then you also need to be able to look at yourself. So I remember a situation. Someone told me that they decided to actually do a random check of drug and alcohol on the drivers, but it was last minute. It was decided that actually it would be unfair just to do all the drivers, and then people in the office would be not tested. So they decided to do the whole company check, and then it turned out the drivers were okay, but some of the people in the office were not fine.
Maybe that was Monday morning after the Saturday and Sunday party.
Yeah, possible. I don't know. So it is, some things like that. You've got to be able to apply the kind of expectations to yourself as well. So that was a funny thing to hear. Most of my days are actually looking at the documents, reviewing reports from tachograph and things like that. So that's not extremely interesting, from the fun point of view. Although being able to identify the issues, like if someone is trying to do some fraudulent activity and things like that, then you kind of go into more of a detective work sometimes. And if you see something not okay going on and doing investigations, I have helped operators who were very difficult in terms of they didn't comply at all. I remember having to kind of search for analog tachograph charts, behind the seats, just to find the
records.
Exactly,
which
the records
need to be kept, right?
Absolutely, yes. So the firing system between behind the seats, mixed up with old sandwiches, isn't the best way to record keeping. Yes,
can imagine.
But I did manage to actually turn them around. So this is something that really gave me a kick to like a very much positive feedback, and that's something very rewarding. So yeah.
All right, let's discuss money. As a transport manager, you can, as we already talked, we can work as a full-time in a company and be an internal transport manager, or you can be a freelancer like you are. So what are the potential for the external and internal transport manager to earn?
Transport manager is a broad job description, I would say. You can be a transport manager for a company that only has a few vans, or you can be a transport manager for a company with several depots, and multiple vehicles and trailers. So, obviously every job is going to, in terms of financial reward, is going to reflect the responsibility. My kind of experience is that, if you want to progress, then it's always, you've got to be able to have the formal qualification, that's for sure, then being able to address the problems, and then if you're able to take on the responsibility, you are also within the right of expecting more reward for it. So and that's kind of my experience. The more responsibility and the more problems you are able to solve for the business, then the money goes up. I mean, looking at the job offers, you can expect to be paid, depending obviously on the area of the country and the company, but generally, 27,000 is a start, but then it goes up into 70s, depending and then that's probably even way more than that, depending on the larger, on the larger operators. But obviously that kind of follows the responsibility. My personal opinion is, if you want to progress, if you work in transport, even if you work in the office, if you're an office admin person, if you're a driver, if you want to progress, do the transport manager CPC 100%. In terms of external transport managers, you are, working as an advisor, as a consultant. You may, for the kind of normal green operator who are doing everything correctly, then you are expected to be paid kind of depending on obviously amount of vehicles that you have. But these days, I think £250 up to £450 for one vehicle is not unheard of. So that's something you can, even if you have a maybe part-time or sometimes even a full-time job, and you are able to pick up someone in your spare time, just as a small operator, it can be as a very good boost to your income.
Much needed in today's in today's world.
Yes, absolutely. It does mean you take on more responsibilities, but again, you're helping someone as well. So obviously, if the fleet is bigger, then it's quite common practice to add £100 extra per vehicle added. So overall, if you to do it full time, it's not you're not going to get it's not a kind of get rich scheme.
Yes.
But it is a rewarding job, and the positive thing is that being external transport manager, you do get to pick your hours, obviously to an extent, because if the vehicles are away working, and then visiting the depot at that time may not be very productive. So you will. You can choose your time, but it's kind of given to you by the operation as well. So it may need very early start, or sometimes popping in over the weekend and things like that. But in terms of someone telling you, you've got to be from 9 to 5 in this office, that's not something that you're expected to do effectively. So that's, I hope that answered the question about the money. So I'm diverting a little bit here.
No, that's fine. Yeah, we know the brackets and kind of what can be expected. What advice would you give to a newly qualified transport manager?
Obviously, that depends. Look at your experience. Look what you are comfortable with. Okay, so, and definitely get a mentor, especially if you've not done it before. Kind of shadowing someone. My experience is that. You don't the course that you go on and the materials will give you a lot of knowledge and a lot of expertise. However, how to achieve it practically, exactly
comes with experience.
Yes. So it's like when you pass your driving license test, then it doesn't mean automatically that you're a super driver. It's only an entry. So you start driving, and then you get your experience, and being open to feedback is important. Shadowing someone in terms of knowing what reports to run on tachograph, for example, what is important on the inspection report, things like that, yes, exactly, yeah. So there are various things that you need to do as a new transport manager. First of all, obviously, you need to make sure your drivers are qualified. A lot of people don't do any form of driver assessment, because obviously the drivers are difficult to obtain, so they kind of just take anyone on board, but then having that communication with them, knowing what to inform them about, the declarations that they need to sign. This is something that's in a practical way is not presented at the course, because the course is kind of talking about the responsibilities, but then get this declaration and get them to sign that, and then talk to the new driver about this, and then you've got to review that problem. That's not talked about.
No.
This is something you've got to pick up as a new transport manager. So a lot of people that come to see me for mentoring are not aware of things like that you've got to run missing mileage report. So this is a report where you compare the data from the tachograph unit and with the driver's card, and then making sure that they don't drive without the card being inserted into the tachograph. So that's sometimes for new transport managers, this is news, and don't forget that a lot of people might have passed their qualification in a different European country, because the transport manager qualification is a Europe-wide recognized certificate. So you may be brought up somewhere with the different standards, and then you completely don't understand the requirements in here. So in that case, doing the even the refresher courses, transport manager refresher course, never hurts. Then you get to answer, you get to ask questions. Obviously, there is materials that you'll go through, and we all forget as well. Even though you could have just passed the exam not long ago, you can still get more knowledge. So the reporting of the tachographs, making sure your driver's downloaded, that your vehicles are downloaded, infringement reports. So again, for me, my driver background really helps with driver's hours.
Yes, I remember I struggled learning that part, and my husband was helping me, who is a driver, because I just could not get my head around the driving hours, because I never had to apply it myself. So there's a complex thing.
So for me, when I was a driver, I was kind of Monday to Friday. I was never exposed to anything
over the allowance.
Yes, exactly. It was there were certain aspects of kind of completing the day, daily rest, driver's hours. But then when it came to ferry driving, like embarking on a ferry, ferry rest, when I took on an operator who was going to Europe frequently, and then I had to pick up a phone call from the driver saying, "Oh, I've done this and that. Can I still drive?" And then you've got to think in your head, have the regulations available to you straight in your head, because you're put on the spot right, at that moment, and your decision is important. You need to know the answer, because it is something that if you say, if you stay to be on the safe side, just park up, then there is a commercial consequence for it, because he might be late. They may be late for the delivery, something may not happen. So then you've got to have that commercial mind as well. You can't be just saying, just be on the safe side. No, you've got to know the regulations right. You've got to be saying, yes, you're legal or you're not legal. So that's something you pick up with experience. So the driver's hours section is absolutely huge, and understanding this is a key for transport manager. So obviously you will learn over time depending on the type of operation that you pick up. Then moving on to safety of the vehicles. what's expected from the drivers in terms of the quality of their check. You may find that some drivers will simply just do, they see that as a form. The walk around check is just a form that I need to complete. So they do their timesheet, they just scribble their timesheet, and then they scribble the report or tap through their app as well. And then you think, okay, it took them 35 seconds to complete the check, and you think, that's not actually what I was expecting them to do. So then being able to approach them and in a very often non-argumentative way, but educational way, because that's where you want to come from. You want to give them opportunity to obviously grow and develop, and then understand that what they do has consequences. Okay, having that approach of the book says you've got to do that. It's not going to take you very far. Very often, some people will obviously comply, but if you allow them to understand that actually we are all in it together, and what you do has got a consequence for the company, because if you don't fulfill your obligations and we are not able to maintain the records that we are required to do, then this company will not have very, very bright future, because one way
and
or
once
another.
we lose our business, then you lose your job and you have to go look for a new one. So it's both ways.
Yeah, absolutely. So normally kind of explaining to the drivers the records that we are required to keep are important, and then what happens with them after they finish normally helps a lot. Another thing to remember is the inspection report. Looking at the inspection report, I have seen in my consultancy life that people sometimes pick up the inspections and then just simply file them without looking at them, and then when we, after a few months, we go through them, it actually says, several safety-related defects, and then next to it says inform customer, and then the workshop never signed the document that the vehicle was roadworthy, and then they realize that actually we were formally informed about the defects on the vehicle, but then because nobody looked at that, then they put it on the road. And the drivers, because they thought it was okay because it was inspected, they were accepting the culture of, okay, we'll just get through the day and then we'll see what happens after that. For operator license, you've got to keep records for 15 months. If you keep that sort of records, then again you're not building up very strong case. So that's something for the transport manager to remember. And a big hot subject at the moment is the brake testing. Okay, this is something that I keep on saying a lot when I see people, and I've got a feeling that many people still don't understand that when you send the vehicle for inspection, the brake test is part of it. Workshops sometimes even tell you, okay, well, I haven't got a roller brake test in here, so they just say not applicable. Because they looked at the brakes, they say, okay, when I looked at the brakes, the parts are still okay. I press the pedal and then it engages. So that's my check done, and then they just stick it through. No, brake test is a part of the inspection. So it needs to be noted on what form of brake test was completed. There is a guide from DVSA that says that you've got to have a minimum of 4 roller brake tests a year.
This is laden or unladen?
So they expect you to do laden.
Laden one.
Okay, so actually the unladen roller brake test is deemed as invalid, as incorrect. So you've got to, the vehicle needs to have a load on, and sufficient load on for the brakes to engage, and then so you can get correct reading. And again, even reading that brake test report, you've got to look deeper into it. You need to understand, whether there was sufficient load, whether there was a pass or fail, what are the pass figures for the vehicle type, and also the imbalance of the wheels. So sometimes, on the same axle, you may have one wheel engaging much heavier than the other, which may destabilize the vehicle whilst driving. These are important things to actually look at. So simply picking up the report and filing it is not the best. No, definitely not. It's something that. But just going back to this brake testing, you'll find that some workshops will say, well, I haven't got the roller brake test, so I will simply not complete anything. Okay, and because it only says we need to do 4 a year, then we don't need to do anything for the rest of the year. Completely misunderstood. You know, you've got to do the brake test. So it is acceptable, and if you look in Guide to Maintaining Roadworthiness, which is absolute Bible for transport managers, it says you can do a road test, but then if you do the road test, which is a bare minimum for a brake test, you need to the workshop needs to check the temperature of the wheels and then write it down. So effectively, if the brakes were not engaging, then the wheel would stay ambient temperature, and obviously if the brakes are, then the temperature is slightly higher. So that's the bare minimum. Brakes are fundamental things of vehicle safety.
Yes.
I mean, come on, it's just like,
it's a very heavy vehicle. If it doesn't brake, imagine the consequence on the road.
Absolutely, yes.
It can kill several people and cause a lot of danger.
Yes, yeah. So understanding this, and I when I pick up the phone from people, you know, and then tell them what the requirements are and things like that, I keep on saying about this brake test thing. It's just it's important to understand, and also the guidelines are changing. So every time DVSA issues the new Guide to Maintaining Roadworthiness, it is important to obviously read that. Because it will tell you what's expected.
What's the latest developments and what's the latest expectations?
Absolutely. Read up about third-party traders, big subject at the moment. If your organization is doing that. So I mean, I could go on and on about this. There is much more into it. So learning from someone and whose experience is important. You know, so we actually working on a fleet planner. We are actually working on a course that we want to record about how to manage the basics of the transport manager responsibilities. How does it look like in practice? Okay, because you can go on the refresher courses, and which is very important. But you know, understanding for your specific operation, what type of reports you run from your tachograph analysis system is a key, and the practical knowledge. How do you demonstrate this that you are on top of it?
That's fantastic, because I for once I would definitely invest in something like that, because I don't have a mentor. I work for my husband's business, and I don't have that knowledge that you are presenting to us. Or obviously I'm trying to also learn from others, so I did have conversations with you before as well, just to kind of make sure that we are staying on top of everything. But yeah, it definitely comes with experience. That's not something that you learn on a CPC training course. There is a lot of knowledge there that you are gaining, but the practicals and the actual practicality of how you apply it in the business is definitely not there. So I'm glad that you have explained some of it to us. And yes, if you guys wanted to check out the fleet planner, and the updates will be on the website to see when this will become available, and I think it's a great product that you guys are working on. Well, thank you so much, Roman, for talking to us. It was a pleasure having you here, and as I did explain and briefly mention to you guys, the Fleet Planner software, which you can see on the screen, Fleet Planner software will be linked in the description below. And we will actually have another podcast, so don't go yet, Roman. I will be speaking to you as well about the Fleet Planner software. And I thank you so much for watching, and if you have any comments or any questions, any suggestions, please don't forget to leave them in the description below. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure speaking to you.
Thank you for having me, and I hope I didn't talk too long, and you know,
everything you talked about is relevant, so don't worry if you go over. It's good to deep dive sometimes in the knowledge and pick somebody's brains to know exactly what's going on behind the jobs of such high responsibility as transport manager is. So thank you again, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks very much. Thanks for watching.
Thank you.